dodge this.
This is the Truth Frequency Radio Network. We are TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
One world currency.
The New World Order.
Those are the roots of trouble.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice. Tumbling down the rabbit hole? Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life. That there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. But I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
And now, welcome to another episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. Here's your host from federaljack.com. It's Popeye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition of DTRH. It is January 29th, 2015. Tonight I am joined by a good friend of the broadcast. He's been on multiple times before. All-around awesome human being. World premier activist. Let me just tell you, this guy is one of the people that's willing to throw himself into the grinder for freedom. We'll get into that in a minute. But anyway, he hasn't been on in a while. Last time I had him scheduled to come on was right before the bottom dropped out of my my whole universe there, and then I was off air for a little while, and I had to reschedule everything, move everything around. So now that I got everything stable again with the broadcast, and we're back, full steam ahead, underway. I wanted to make sure that I got him back on here. I wanted you all, the newer listeners. The older listeners will remember who he is, but I wanted the newer listeners to get a chance to get to know him, and I wanted to catch up with him because it's been so long. Him and his crew have been arrested multiple times in between the last broadcast and now. So, and he does this for freedom, like real freedom. He doesn't do this because he wants to be cool. He's got a full-time job. He's got a family, and he still puts his ass on the line because it's the right thing to do. So, without wasting any more time, I want to introduce my good friend, Mr. Korey Watkins from Open Carry Tarrant County. Korey, welcome back to the broadcast, brother.
Hey, brother. What's going on? I appreciate you having me back.
So, in between the last time you were on and now, you've gotten, you and your buddies have gotten arrested over there in Texas multiple times, fighting for freedom and liberty, and just doing the right thing. And I know it sounds cheesy saying fighting for freedom and liberty, but technically that's really what you're doing. So let's rewind to the last time you were on. Since you were on the broadcast, what's happened? Fill us in.
Well, since last time, that was basically when me and my wife were just kind of getting out all of that arrest situation. Another cop watcher was involved with us as well, Joseph Ty. He deals with we both deal with Texas Cop Block, and And we were just kind of getting out of all that ordeal. So much has happened since then. Shoot, I mean, we've had 4 more people arrested since then for no reason at all. Matter of fact, one time we were doing a cop watch, and we pulled up on a house that was supposedly something was going on there. It was a domestic dispute. We were kind of just showing up to see what the ordeal was. The officer had just wrote one of our guys a ticket for not using his blinker within 100 feet. I mean, how ridiculous is that? And they were harassing us. It took 9 cars to write a ticket for not using your blinker within 100 feet. And so we left that traffic stop, and we were going to the next stop where these guys were. And of course, the officer didn't use his blinker like 3 times on the way there after he just wrote us a ticket and stuff. So I got out of the car to confront him about, the blinker, and I don't know, one thing led to another. And this lady across the street was talking about, you guys shouldn't be, messing with the cops like that. They're doing their job. And, it seemed like the way she was coming at us, it seemed like she was kind of yelling or whatnot, but it was just her voice. Sometimes people's voice tends to carry a little bit louder and kind of make it seem like if they're yelling, but they're only really just talking aloud because we were talking across the street. So I didn't want to make it seem like we were trying to ruffle any feathers. So I told the lady, I said, well, let me come across the street and we'll just talk to you like that, so we don't have to yell back and forth. For whatever reason, the officers start coming up to us, are you okay, ma'am? Or, are these guys harassing you? Or, and everything's fine. It's just like trying to make a problem out of nothing. And so, one of my buddies is in the car and he's telling me, hey, get over here. I think they're, about to start messing with y'all, like arresting you guys. So I walk over there towards the car and sliver my way out of it. I don't know how, but they trapped one of the cop watchers, my buddy Pablo, and ended up detaining and arresting him. They said that he assaulted and interfered with the he had assaulted a simple assault on this woman that he clearly never touched. And then he interfered with the investigation. And it was just bull crap charges. So later that evening, probably not but 2 hours later, we pulled up at another traffic stop, and this was, I think right after Pablo was still in jail, or maybe he was either still in jail or right after he got out of jail. We went back cop watching again, and my buddy, we carry the black powder revolvers, the pre-1899 black powder revolvers, because here in Texas, you can't open carry your modern day pistol. So you either got to choose. The only constitutional means of carry is with your long gun or with a black powder revolver. So we on some of the cop watches, we do black powder revolvers. Well, the officer gets out of the car right away and comes right over to our, one of our cop watchers who was open carrying at the time and says, hey man, put up your firearm and we're going to take you to jail. And not but 1 second later, well, there he goes. He's arresting him. And well, there's our second guy in one night arrested. So they kidnapped 2 of us that one night, both on bogus charges. We're seeing the tyranny at our front door. And, man, just last week, 2 more people. One guy, we didn't say one word. We got out of the truck, walked to the back of the truck. They said, put the guns up or we're going to arrest you. And I tried to, talk to them like, hey, is open carry now illegal all of a sudden in Arlington? And they didn't want to have nothing to do with that. So I put my AK-47 up right as they were grabbing the other guy. And I wouldn't have minded to go to jail, but the whole issue there is I didn't want my AK to be taken from me because they're starting to arrest us and they're keeping our firearms. They're not giving us our knives and guns back, even though some of this stuff doesn't even have to do with the gun. Like they arrested Jacob Dova for the black powder revolver, and clearly on film you can hear them saying it's about the firearm. And then when they got to the station, they changed the charge to interfering with public duty. Had nothing to do with the firearm, even though that's what they originally said. And then they switched it at the police station, and then they never give you back your gun. So they have 3 of our guns and some of our knives, our phones, our cameras. These guys have been stealing stuff from us, and it's kind of getting old. So, but yeah, 4 arrests in the past 2 months, and they got 3 of our guns.
And what are the grounds for them keeping your possessions? I mean, not even, I'm not even going to say guns. Your physical possessions, because let's break it down to the basics. They're just taking your stuff and holding it. So what are they saying? What's the reason? I mean, there's no justification, but what's the excuse?
Right. The excuse is that they were a deadly weapon on, dealing on scene, I guess. And we're trying to get with the district attorney to return some of that stuff, and it seems to be going in a good direction. That route. We have a new district attorney, and seems to be a little bit better than the last one. So hopefully that's a good thing.
And explain a little bit to the listeners. Go back for a second, because you said something about the black powder versus regular firearms. And I know you and I have discussed this before, but for the newer listeners, so they understand, I mean, so the listeners know, Korey and the rest of his crew, they go out, and then not only do they promote open carry and open discussion and debate, and we've talked about this. I urge you to go listen to the broadcasts he's been on before. But they also cop watch. We have to keep an eye on these people that run around in their Halloween costumes because their heads are getting a little bit too big, and they have fear IVs strapped right into their arms and tapped into their vein. Okay, and they're operating on fear 24/7 now. They're reacting. They're not thinking, and they need to be watched. Okay, they need to be called out. And people like Korey and his friends are putting their asses on the line, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, Korey's very, very chill about it. He's a really chill guy. He's like, oh, it's no big deal. But they're getting arrested. I mean, they could get shot.
Right.
You guys are.
No, I almost got shot the other day.
Well, see, get into it. What happened?
Well, when they were arresting Kenny, the two blue officers were specially designed for us that day. We had planned an event, and so what the Arlington police did is they signed a special unit for us only. And when those guys came up to us, they told us to put the guns up. And when they started arresting Kenny, I went to go put my gun up. And then one officer who came up from behind, who was never in the conversation and wearing a different uniform because he was just on duty that day at the traffic stop, he came up and told me, close the door, and meaning don't put my gun up, just opposite of what the two officers had already told me. And you can clearly see him reach down for his pistol and put his hand on his gun as if he was going to draw on me. And we had to tell him, hey, dude, I'm putting my gun up. Calm the hell down. You're fearing. You're making something out of nothing. And they've been trained to fear us. They've been trained to say, hey, these guys are out to get us. The officer got shot in New York. That means it's going to happen everywhere. Everybody's crazy and everybody's guilty until they prove themselves innocent and sane. So.
You see, this is what I mean about the cops operating on fear. And I had this happen to me a couple of years ago, probably about 7 years ago now. I used to be a PI, and I did undercover work. And I was on my way to one of my jobs undercover in my car, and I got pulled over down in Broward County, Florida. And at the time, there was a bunch of Broward County cops that had gotten shot and killed during traffic stops over the course of like 6 months to a year. So they were all on edge, and they, obviously their superiors would get them all pumped up on fear before they went out on the road. And 3 of them pulled me over SWAT team style, Korey. Remember, I work with the police as an investigator all the time, and here these guys pull me over. When they pulled me over, the way that they pulled me over, I just slammed on my brakes and I threw my hands up and I just sat there. They walk over with their guns drawn on me, and the cop goes, "Why do you have your hands up?" I said, "Why are you pulling me over like SWAT?" And he goes, "Touche." I said, "Right, maybe if you lower your weapons, I'll lower my hands." I said, "I don't feel like getting shot because you guys are overzealous." "Oh, well, you can put your hands down." I said, "Well, I will when you put your friggin' gun down." How does that sound? And you know why they pulled me over? Because I had tint on my windows.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So I got guns, three guns pointed at me. And I mean, they stop me they come at you in kind of like a triangular fashion. You get 2 in the front and 1 from behind. And the 2 in the front come at you from 2 angles, so you can't steer the car in either direction, and it's hard to get through the center. They block you. And then the 1 came up from behind. And they all hopped out with their guns drawn on me. And I was like, for no reason at all, I may add. I wasn't speeding. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I wasn't giving chase, right? Nothing. That's the way they pulled me over. And then they, like I said, the brain power wasn't even there for the cop when he goes, "Why do you have your hands up?" Well, I don't know. I have 3 guns pointed at me. Should I be tap dancing and reaching for things? That way you can have an excuse to cap me? No. You know? Yeah, dude, it's all fear. And those cops that you dealt with, obviously that cop now because a couple cops got killed in New York suddenly, and the media made a big deal out of it. Suddenly everybody that opposes a police officer, and this is the narrative that's out there, by the way, suddenly now if you oppose a cop or you're a cop watcher, you want to kill cops.
Right.
So that means that you guys are now, because of stupid statements like that, you and your friends are being put in like needless danger. You should be allowed to go out and videotape the police. The Supreme Court has already ruled on this, have they not?
Yep. No, we should. We should be able to do it, and we should be able to do it armed. Because you know what? The Supreme Court has also ruled that the police are not there to protect us, and also the facts and the stats show that the police officers are 8 times more likely to kill you than a damn terrorist. So I'm going to take an individual responsibility to protect myself.
Right. What happens if you're out there cop watching and not even a cop, but some crazy cop, apologist groupie who thinks that you pose a danger because he's all amped up from the media and the fear that's put out. And they come up and they try to attack you with a bat or something. Leave the cops alone. I mean, that could happen. What are you supposed to do? Just let the guy cave your skull in? Absolutely crazy.
No, not me.
No. Well, it's absolutely, dude, it's unacceptable. It's crazy, and it's stupid for people to think, like, ask yourself, ladies and gentlemen, if you're against the Second Amendment, if you're against self-defense and protecting yourself, because that's basically, the Second Amendment isn't about running around and shooting people or, having fully automatic weapons so you can run and take over sections of your town. It's about having the right to defend yourself. If you take away that right, it's very easy to violate you. You think someone that breaks in your house with a knife, you think you can plead with them? Oh, please don't hurt me. Take whatever you want. Chances are if they're breaking into your house with a knife at 3 o'clock in the morning, they're not there to steal things. They're there to do something much, much worse. And there's only one way to deal with someone like that. Case in point, did you see the video of the dude with the machete?
I did not.
Okay, some guy, I don't know what state it was in, but one of the 50 grand states here in the U.S., in an apartment complex of sorts, guy goes nuts, starts losing it in the hallway, and his neighbors locked them all themselves in their apartments, and he comes through one of the doors with a machete. And his neighbor is on the other side. He says, "I've got a gun. Don't do it because I'll shoot you." The dude comes through the door, and as soon as he came through the door with the machete, the guy raised his arm with the machete, and the other guy capped him 3 times in the chest. Boom, boom, boom. Good night. Over.
He told him.
But, dude, 5 seconds, it was over. That's all I got to say. Perfect.
Yeah, no, don't.
Perfect example of why the Second Amendment is important, right? I mean, what would you do? If someone broke into your house, you have a family, you have a wife and a child, what would you do? Wouldn't you would want to be able to protect your family to the best of your ability, correct?
Absolutely. I have a Mossberg 12 gauge that does that for me. And, I'm a responsible gun owner. I even think, 2 steps ahead. If somebody's breaking into my house, I got a warning shot, for it's basically BBs that will hurt the hell out of you. And if you were somehow my neighbor by accident or a relative and I'm mistaken, well, then you're still going to be alive. But if you're an intruder, this next buckshot that I'm going to deliver is going to blow your fucking chest wide open.
And that's what you have to look. Let's be honest. People don't like to think about that, right? But if you're in your house at 3 o'clock in the morning and somebody breaks in, you don't know what they have. You can't assume that the individual, well, they have a knife or they only have a bat. Well, how do you know that guy can't overpower you and cave your head in with the bat? And then now your kids and your wife are now easy prey for this individual. Wrong answer. There's only one way to respond. First of all, your friends and your family ought to know not to break into your house at 3 o'clock in the morning. All my friends and family know not to. They know breaking into Popeye's house at 3 a.m. will result in very, very bad things. So don't do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's that simple. So I assume anybody coming in to the house in that situation is already bad because anybody with half a brain knows better. And if they don't know better, well, then they're going to learn. And look, it doesn't mean that I abhor regular violence. I don't think people should just walk up and punch people randomly in the face either. I think that's a misnomer that if you're a gun owner or you believe in self-defense that you love violence. I think it's actually quite the opposite. Like usually most people I know, Kory, you're mild-mannered. You're not a psychopath. Most people I know that are gun owners aren't nuts. In fact, they're very laid-back, calm individuals, and taking someone's life is the last thing they want to do. Are there people out there that make us look bad? Yeah. Like George Zimmerman, that guy makes licensed, legal gun owners, and not even, I don't, how I feel about government and licensing and all that, but
right.
he makes legal gun owners look bad. He does. Because of all the media attention and then all the retarded things that this idiot has done since. He doesn't know the words lay low. He doesn't understand the definition of that, or keep your mouth shut. And he's like a lightning rod for criticism, and people now associate that moron with legal gun owners. And it's just he's one instance where a guy who happened to have the legal right to carry a concealed weapon was a complete a-hole and did not use his brains. And by the way, I said it on air, and this is the reason why they didn't use it. He couldn't use the stand your ground defense here in Florida because it didn't pertain to him, because he was the aggressor in the situation. And the basis of the law is if you're the aggressor, you're supposed to de-escalate. If you have a firearm and you're the aggressor, even if you don't, if you have a firearm, you're supposed to de-escalate the situation as best you can. Okay. Now, if you're not the aggressor and you're being attacked, the onus doesn't fall on you as much. But if you're the aggressor, like the situation he was in, then you have to do everything in your power, and he didn't. He did the opposite. So that didn't defend him. He had to go with regular self-defense. But yet people will still attack the stand your ground law and say it's horrible and laws like that need to be repealed and, oh my God, it's ridiculous. But so far they've left it alone. They ought to leave it alone, because I'll tell you what, there's plenty of cases where you can see that the stand your ground law has actually, it's been applied by people when they needed it, and it's helped them. You guys have something similar in Texas, don't you?
Not that I'm aware of. I haven't really looked into that.
You guys can't use deadly force if need be?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. Yeah, absolutely. If it's yes, we can.
Okay, no, I wasn't sure, because I know you guys, like here we don't have, but basically the only difference, like with the stand your ground law amongst some other states, is that you don't have to. There's no duty to retreat. If someone threatens your life, you can stand your ground. That's meaning like you don't have to run away. If you can run away, go ahead, but if you're in a situation, they did it because part of the problem was people's houses and stuff were getting broken into, and the homeowner would shoot the person, and even with certain laws on the books, it still didn't protect them. You'd have prosecutors that were overzealous, and they would still try to put these people in jail, and in many cases did, for doing nothing more than just defending themselves. Yeah, so that's when they came up with the stand your ground law. And that's when it was pushed and everything else. I mean, that's that's the partial basis of it anyway here in the grand old state of Florida. I mean, I think it's ridiculous that it's not just gun control problems either. It's not just gun control laws that are the problem, I should say. It's prosecutors too. Like, I'm sure you guys have gotten arrested 4 times since the last time I talked to you. How many overzealous prosecutors do you have on your ass?
We're not too sure about that. It seems like it's kind of decent. We live in a pretty, I don't know, man. I don't want to say good. I don't know. I'm cautious, man. I don't really know what's going to go on with the new DA and some of these new prosecutors and stuff like that. We're just hoping that the evidence and the jury and the judge can all see that what's going on. Our system is pretty decent, but it can be manipulated and bought pretty easy. So you never know what the hell is going to go on.
You guys have any open court dates coming up?
My first one just finished, so I don't have one until like next month, but it's not scheduled yet.
And do you think you guys are optimistic about your chances, or you don't obviously think that you're going to get locked up or anything for any extended period of time, correct?
No. I got 2 Class B misdemeanors pending. One of them was interfering public duty. The other one's obstructing a highway. I was standing on a sidewalk, so I'm not really sure how I can obstruct the highway, and I was complying with officers' orders, so I can't really see how I would be, impeding in their investigation. So even if I was charged, I don't think I'd be doing any jail time. I mean, it's like maximum 6 months in jail, and it's like some petty charge. I homeschool my kids. I have a job since I was like 15 years old. I just don't see them putting somebody in jail like that. I mean, I understand if I didn't have a job and I was a deadbeat and I was always in trouble and stuff like that, but I just don't see them doing that.
Even the Arlington PD over there and their whole government system that loves you and the rest of your friends in Open Carry Tarrant County so much, you think they're going to try to push to bust your guys' balls any harder than they already have? I mean, they mess with you for free speech. I mean, it's not even about the open carry stuff. They just mess with you for basic free speech at this point. So do you think it's going to get any worse or no?
I don't know. We're trying to prove a point. We just want to film. We want to stand there and film while we're openly carrying. What's can we not do both at the same time? It's like we either get the first right or the Second Amendment. It's not like both of them at the same time. I guess in the Constitution it says you can't like combine rights at one time. I don't know.
I think there's a caveat on the bottom. There's like a side thing that says all these rights are, all these rights can only be used individually. It's like a coupon, cannot be used in accordance with any other deal. You have to look at the small print in the bottom of the Constitution. Right at the bottom of the Bill of Rights on the lower right. It says cannot be used in conjunction with any other coupons or discounts or offers. Oh, okay, I see. I can't use the First Amendment and the Second Amendment in conjunction with one another. Although that's why the Second Amendment is the Second Amendment, because the First Amendment was free speech, and then the Second Amendment was the right to carry a gun to back up said free speech. Anyway, we're going to break, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. So now that Kory and I have caught up on the past 5-6 months, and we've been able to chat and discuss him and his friends' multiple arrests. Again, I can't point out the fact enough that these guys and women, ladies and these gentlemen that go out there, they put their asses on the line, ladies and gentlemen, for an idea. And they're not doing so violently. In fact, they're putting themselves in a very dangerous situation where they have to deal with, in many cases, thugs who don't have any problem killing somebody for no reason. And I'm not talking about gangbangers. I'm talking about the largest gang there is. That'd be law enforcement. And they go out and they deal with these individuals. In many cases, these individuals are very unstable. And yet these citizens, they put their asses on the line, not only to prove a point about freedom and the right to carry, and that if someone's openly carrying a firearm, it doesn't make them a terrorist or a killer. They destroy that whole meme instantly with their actions. But they also cop watch. And we're going to get into, I'm going to have Kory explain later on. He's on for 2 hours with us tonight, so we're going to be getting into a bunch of stuff, but we're going to get into cop watching, cop blocking, as it's called, what it is, how to do it, where to look to maybe get involved with doing it in your own area. The more people watching them, the better. You, ladies and gentlemen, are the watchers on the wall, so to speak. Anyway, I want to get back into gun rights since we're on this topic. Kory was talking to me during the break. He was telling me about an open carry bill that's going on in Texas right now. Kory, what exactly is the bill that is going through the Senate right now, and what does it entail? Just you guys would be open to walk around wherever?
Yeah, the bill that has been introduced, the first one in the House was HB 195, and there seemed to be a lot of support for that. And about, a week and a half ago, we had a senator who introduced a bill that was very identical. And once you get one bill in the House and one in the Senate, it makes things a little bit better, a little bit more support for it, obviously. We have less people to work on. Here in Texas, we have 150 something House representatives and 31 senators in our House, so it makes it a little bit easier once we don't only have to deal with 30 people compared to 150. So we've been in and out of these legislators' offices just trying to pick their brains, drop some knowledge, spit the facts, and let them know what the constituents are wanting. And basically what the bills are designed to do, if you live in Texas, you know that, we're not allowed to open carry a modern-day handgun right now. We're one of 5 states that don't allow that. Florida, California, we're all in the same mix. We're like felons if we decide to keep and bear arms openly. And we can do it with our rifle, our 100-round magazine on a AK-47, but you can't do a Glock 19 with a 15-round magazine. So we're trying to get the laws changed to free that up, to allow a freedom of choice, whether you want to conceal or whether you want to open carry. And right now we don't have that freedom whatsoever, and that's what we're working on. If you live in Texas, it would be very nice to make sure that you call your senator and tell them to support SB 342. That would get rid of any kind of regulation on open carry of a pistol. You wouldn't need a license to do it, and that's what we're trying to get back to, is kind of what our founders intended. And we're trying to remind the legislators that when we went through a process of our conventions, whether the Republican convention here in Texas, we had over 10,000 delegates who unanimously voted for constitutional carry as the number one priority. And that speaks volumes when you go into an office and they tell you that, well, we're still looking at this bill, or we're not too sure about it, and we're still doing this and that, and then you got to hit them with the facts. Your constituents unanimously voted for it, and it wasn't like, hey, we had a couple hundred. I mean, we were in a convention center with thousands and thousands of people, and when they voted for the bill, you could hear a pin drop when they asked for the nays, because there was not one single person that voted against it. And when they asked for the yays, it was like, yes! It was like a roar, a thunderous roar. And so, with that being said, you would think that these people would be taking our bill a little bit more serious, since it's sitting there right there in front of their hands, and the constituents unanimously voted as a priority for it. So we're unfortunately, you have to go down there and beg and plead and demand to get rights that are given to us by our Creator and protected by the Constitution, and now they're gone somehow. So, I mean, the system here is jacked up, and we're down here messing with it. So it'd be good if we got some support from people. SB 342 is the bill to support in the Senate. Call your senators. Call the Lieutenant Governor, Dan Patrick. Let him know you support it. We were in a meeting with some of his executive people today for about 30 minutes, and that meeting went real well. So we're just trying to get the message out, man. It doesn't matter if it's in the street, in the chamber, on page, Facebook. I mean, we're going to hit it from every single angle you can think of. So that's what we're doing.
And I don't see any reason why you shouldn't open carry. Honestly, do you want me to be straight up honest with you, Korey? Personally, I would prefer if people were openly carrying as opposed to concealed carry. Because concealed, I mean, if you think about it, and this is why the argument against open carry is just ludicrous. It's all fear-based. The reason why people are afraid is because they see the gun. It brings about this fear in them, and rather than face that fear and see if it's actually founded in any sense of logic or not, or just total emotional and ignorance, they don't even want to deal with it, because our society is now taught that you don't deal with your feelings, you put them away. You don't look at things like that, make you uncomfortable. You go, oh my God, I can't deal with that. So that's what the gun. It's not even about the gun. There's a much deeper meaning behind it, right? So the gun itself is just like this physical reminder of an uncomfortable feeling that they don't want to deal with. It's not even that they don't, because most people I know that don't like guns, like I know a lot, I've converted people. Like, oh, I don't like guns. I'm like, did you ever shoot one? No. Did you ever hold one? No. So then why don't you like them? Well, I saw videos. How about I let you hold one and shoot one? And then they fire it for the first time, and usually it's, oh my God, That's so cool. Yeah, you still hate guns? I'm starting to think differently. Go ahead and squeeze off a few more rounds. Pop, 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 pop. Oh, I really like this. I'm sure you've seen it too. It's all based off of ignorance. Most of the people that don't like guns and spew all these irrational, illogical lies about them have never fired one. It's just it's that simple. Yeah. So usually it's like anybody else. It's like when people bash cannabis. Usually people that are against it have never smoked it. And usually the ones that say there's no medicinal value for it have never even researched it other than to turn on the mainstream media to see what the media says or the government or the CDC says. They've never actually done it. That's always the way it is. Most, if not all of the roadblocks that we face are based off of ignorance, right? And it's personally, think about it. I would rather know that everybody is carrying than not know who's carrying and who is, right? Because right now it's a crapshoot. You know, I mean, look, in Florida, more than 50% of the residents in Florida have concealed weapons permits. So if you go out to the store, more than 50% of the people at that store are more than likely carrying a firearm or a concealed weapon of sorts, right? Yeah. I think it would just be, look, to me, it's like being open and honest, right? Like you're walking around, you're out in public. When you guys go to Target, you guys are walking around with your AK-47s on your back. Look, I know you're armed. I'm not worried about the guy with the AK-47 because you're not running around aiming it at people, right? You're just walking around with things strapped to your back. As long as you're not trying to hurt anybody, I don't care. You know, I'm glad that I know you have that firearm. If something happens, I can go, hey, guy with the AK, we need a hand over here in aisle 9. You know? You know, urban assault in aisle 9. Seriously.
A lot of the stuff is definitely based off of lack of education and people fearing things. You know, one of the examples I use is, you know, how did you feel about a car when you first started driving? You know, you weren't too sure. You were kind of scared of it. You know, you were kind of edgy. But after you got used to it, it was secondhand nature. You just get in it and you go. And cars kill.
Uh-oh, I think we lost him.
Getting more of it. Education is needed, and to fill people's emotional fears and to wipe those clean is always a positive.
Korey, go back for about 30 seconds and say that again because your phone cut out for a second there. I want to give you the opportunity to repeat that for the listeners.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear now. Go ahead.
Okay. I was just saying, I think what you said was pretty clear there. The emotion, lack of information, people fearing something that is not true. You know, it's kind of like driving a car. When you first started doing it, you weren't too sure about it. You were scared of it. But cars kill more people than guns do. It's all about education and just learning about it.
I wholeheartedly agree. And again, if everybody would just put their fears aside, we'd have less problems in this country as a whole with everything. Guns are just a lightning rod for emotions, and they use them to scare the crap out of people. And you have, you know, you can call them liberals, whatever. I think aiming at it in that direction too is also a bad idea for the pro-gun crowd. You know, attacking somebody, well, you're just a liberal retard. You're just dividing the lines even further. You got to try to step out of that and be like, look, this is why you think that way. Try to I'm not asking you to join a religion. I'm just asking you to be a little bit more open-minded and not suck on the teat of fear. That's all. You know what I mean? You guys, I think you guys really do a really good job at your activism. That's why I like promoting you guys. The whole group, Open Carry Tarrant County, and the cop block that you belong to. You guys really, you guys. That's why, like when I say you guys are real, true activists, you are, because you go out and you guys are doing this for the right reasons. You're not doing this to become famous or to get your name on a DVD or sell a T-shirt or whatever. You guys are doing this because it's the right thing to do when you actually believe in this, and that's why I support you guys wholeheartedly. And you're smart in the way you do things, because you guys, I know there are some groups that like confrontation. You guys, even though you get confronted, you don't run from the confrontation, you don't escalate it, but you engage them in logical debate even while you're being arrested. And that takes a lot of patience, and it takes a special type of individual to do that. So I just wanted to give you guys, a shout out and say thank you, because It's people like you, Korey, and the rest of the crew that you work with that are going to set the example for other activists that are looking up to you guys, the younger generations, and even people, around our age that maybe want to get involved. They'll look at you guys and say, look, there is another way other than bullhorning and getting in people's faces and yelling and screaming. There's a way to still open carry and yet be civil and have logical debates, even with the very popos that are beating the living crap out of you. So I wanted to give Korey and the rest of Open Carry Tarrant County a shout out. His phone must have died, so I'm going to try to reconnect with him because his phone must have lost reception where he is, coming back through Texas from Austin. So I'll get Korey back on in a minute as soon as I can reconnect with him here, ladies and gentlemen. But anyway, I wanted to give them that shout out because they deserve it. I mean, look, let's face it, going out and facing police officers, getting in their faces, politely I may add, but getting in their faces with a camera, I shouldn't say getting in their face, getting on the sidelines with a camera and your firearm at the same time, or even if you're just going out for open carry rights and you go out in the street and you're walking around with your firearm, in today's society, in a fear-based society that we live in right now, that's dangerous what these people do. And I'm not chastising them for it. In fact, I'm actually saying that, we honor people for putting themselves in danger, firefighters, military, right? We honor people that rush into dangerous situations in order to do the right thing. That's what these people do. That's what Open Carry Tarrant County does. That's what Open Carry Texas does. They're standing up for their rights. They're creating a discussion. The fact that the media has to attack them, the fact that the powers that shouldn't be via the police have to go after them and harass them, the fact that the police's masters have to get their dogs, as they're called. By the way, make no mistake, I'm not making fun of the police and calling them names when I say that. The police and the military are called by the powers that shouldn't be. They call them their pets, their dogs. They literally call them their pets. Why do you think when I was in the military we had dog tags? What do you think that's about? Oh, that's just a nickname, Popeye. No, we're their pets. What did Kissinger say about military men and women? We're just dumb, stupid animals to be used as pawns for political objectives. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but he said that the part that's not paraphrased is the military men are dumb, stupid animals. Literally, verbatim what he said. To be used as pawns, like chess pieces, which I say all the time. So all you cops out there that run around harassing citizens, doing nothing wrong, I may add, not violating the law. I'm not talking about people that are running around openly shooting into the air and like robbing marketplaces. That's not what these guys do. It's not what these men and women do at all. And yet you harass them for the people that look at you like you're a dog. I want you to think about that for a second. How does that make you feel? Your masters look at you like you're a pet. And don't tell me that you're okay with it. If you're okay, if you're cool with being someone's pet, wow, just you're pathetic. I actually feel sorry for you. I don't have any hatred or anger towards you. I actually feel sorry for you because you're that pathetic of a human being that you'd prefer to be someone's pet than be free and be yourself. That's pretty sad. And it's extremely pathetic. I know I'm not someone's pet. I know my fellow veteran friends aren't someone's pets. That's why most vets most of the people that end up being very vocal that I find as of late are veterans. Veterans, sometimes you get guys that are still asleep, but there's a large chunk of veterans that are awake because they see through this. Maybe they understand things on a different level. That's why they're labeled terrorists, by the way. Returning vets are terrorists because they come back and go, man, this is bullshit. That's why they're labeled terrorists. Anyway, you should think about that, officers. You're expendable, too. Just because you're getting all cool military equipment right now and you think now's the time to be a cop, more than ever, it's a time to be a police officer. No, it's not. It's time to quit your job. What if all the cops just said, nah, we're not going to do this? Or they all said, nah, we're not going to enforce your laws. What if? Wouldn't that be great? What if? What if there were no soldiers to fight wars? We wouldn't have these problems. That's why I always try to get people to change their perspective. If I can get you to change your perspective on things, if I can get you to look at things just a slight bit differently, maybe you can get someone else out there to look at things a slight bit differently, and you never know the true change that you could affect. Again, that's why I like Korey and the whole crew over at Open Carry Tarrant County. Just because of if for nothing else, for the way that they handle themselves when they go out and they protest. Because they're not arrogant about it. They're very low. They're out there and they're in your face, but at the same time, I don't know. I don't want to say professional because that almost the term professional protester. I just don't like that term. But they're I guess professional about the way they do things. They're just smart about the way they do things, the way they engage police or other people, even if they're getting arrested. So they're doing an activist thing. They're engaging in activism, right? But yet they're doing so with a higher level of thinking. They're not just running out with a bullhorn and screaming through it. That's what we need to do. That's what we need to emulate. The rest of the planet, the rest of the world needs to do this type of thing. We need to go out and we need to engage. Don't be afraid to engage the police in conversation. Don't be afraid to engage anybody in conversation, but do so with logic, not emotion, not acting out. As I said, use Open Carry Tarrant County and Korey and the rest of the crew over there and the cop block group that he belongs to as an example. And I think we have Korey back with us now. So, Korey, we got interrupted there. I was pontificating a little bit about, I was giving you guys credit, and I was just speaking to the police for a second, explaining how that they're considered dogs and pets by the powers that shouldn't be, and that they really shouldn't be willing to violate their fellow humans' rights just for a buck or because they think they're part of some special clique. But I did want to make sure I gave you guys a shout out and a big thank you for all the stuff you do. I think you guys honestly are a good example to other activists out there. So I'm glad you're back with us. I want to get into the cop block stuff, and I want to talk about some activism for a while with you now. So we got about 5 minutes, a little less than 5 minutes before the break comes up. Take as much time as you need. I want to get into cop blocking, what it is. And first, go ahead and plug the local cop block group and organization that you belong to.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. I guess I dropped a call driving back from Austin. But, the cop block group that we're involved in is the local one is North Texas Cop Block. So if you're in the North Texas area, or even if you're not, get on the Facebook page, give it a like, share it, invite as many people as you can. It's North Texas Cop Block. And we also have a Texas Cop Block page. That's kind of the main thing for Texas. And we're just trying to spread a message, whether it's here some information local or whether it's national-wide stuff. We're just trying to spread the message around and get more people involved, get more groups going. The cop block is very, very simple. It's individuals going out and just creating an extra line of transparency for people and the police officers, because a lot of people think if you're cop watching, automatically for some weird reason you hate cops, and I don't think that's the case. People are just looking for more accountability more transparency, a better line of figuring out what's going on and where the problems are so we can solve them. And you know, when we go out, you can clearly see there's a difference when you have a camera on an officer and when you don't. We've heard multiple times from people who, you know, we were recording traffic stops and, you know, we went to go interview them and see what was going on with the stop. And immediately they would tell us, as soon as you guys got here, that officer's attitude changed. And I appreciate y'all coming. I mean, we've heard that a bunch of times, so it feels good to hear that as well. I mean, you're sitting out there, you're recording an officer and you're thinking, man, I'm just sitting here recording and there's nothing going on. But some of the things that are going on, you don't really see, you know, on like right in front of your face. They're going on, you know, he's making sure he's, you know, dotting the I's and crossing the T's, you know, because he's got a camera on him. And it's quite frankly, it's a camera that he can't control, or all of a sudden malfunctioned, or they lost or something like that, you know. So that's a good way to keep an extra line of transparency. People going out and recording the police officers and filming them. And, you know, depending on your state laws and stuff, I definitely recommend having a line of protection, whether it be open carry or a knife of some sort. And, you know, it's not like, you know, I'm telling you to be scared of the cops or something like that. It's just a means of protecting yourself, because government and the police are not going to do that. You know, you need to take an individual responsibility on yourself to do that, even when you're cop watching. You know, I've had some people say, well, you know, I agree with open carry, and I'm just not sure. I'm not sure about doing it on cop watch. Well, then you're not really sure about open carry. You know what I'm saying? I mean, why is that? Why does the officer get to open carry when he's on a police stop, but I don't? You know what I'm saying? To me, that's kind of like he's the master and I'm the slave. You know, what kind of country are we living in? I thought we were like land of the free, home of the brave. You know, we're more like, you know, land of the slave and home of the license or something. I don't know. We got to ask permission to do everything. Sooner or later, we're going to start asking permission to use like extra pieces of toilet paper, or we're going to get fined for wiping our butt too much. I don't know. It's just gotten out of control, man. So, you know, I think the cop watching is a direct action. It really affects the police officers and making sure that their line of duty is being done correctly. You know, we've built relationship with a lot of the police officers, even sometimes the ones in Arlington. You know, it seems sometimes like you're not getting through to them, even though you're just talking to them and you're dropping the knowledge and you're continuously pounding them about, you know, the rights of, you know, what their duty is. A lot of the officers these days will talk about, well, you know, I'm taking commands from above. I can't really do nothing about it. You know, I'm just doing my job, following orders.
Yeah, the Nazis.
You know, the camera.
The Nazis said the same thing at the Nuremberg trials, and look how that worked out for them. I'm going to pause this right there, Korey, because the break is sneaking up on us. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned when we get back. We're going to get more into cop block with Korey. I want to keep discussing this and talk about this a little bit, because this is an important subject, especially in the atmosphere of fear that's being pushed out right now to the police and to the general public about all this. So stay tuned. 3 short minutes. We'll be right back. Do not go anywhere. Check out Open Carry Tarrant County on Facebook. Ladies and gentlemen, we're back with hour number 2 here on tonight's live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I am your host, Popeye, from FederalJack.com. It is January 29th, 2015. Hanging out with my good friend, Korey Watkins, cop block, and a member of Open Carry Tarrant County. If you missed the first hour, I suggest you go back in the archives, no matter where it be, on FederalJack.com, YouTube, Truth Frequency Radio, or wherever else you may be listening to my broadcast in the archive format. Go back and listen to the first hour. I urge you to. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, if you go to federaljack.com/Popeye, very simple, easy to remember link, federaljack.com/Popeye. It is the downloadable archive section for my radio show that's on Federal Jack. It's a very simple, easy to use download page. It's an old school directory listing. I went old school because it works with everything, ladies and gentlemen. It works with your phone. It works with tablets. It works with computers. It does not matter if your device can get on the internet and you can touch the screen or move a cursor and touch links and click on them. It will work. The very, 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 very basics. That's why it's there. You can either click the link and it'll open it up and stream it, or you can right-click and save as, and you can download the commercial-free archive for yourself. All my shows, anything I've ever rendered, and I have probably about 15 shows I have to finish getting up, which I'm currently working on, even my older stuff. Even if it's a year or two old, I'm getting anything I've ever done all put out there. It's one of my goals to get everything done. So, federaljack.com/Popeye. federaljack.com/Popeye. And you can download any of my old broadcasts I've ever done, including all the times my good friend Korey's been on. And we've discussed this stuff. And we've talked about activism and cop blocking and open carry and why people should open carry. So here in hour two, we're going to continue with this discussion right now about activism. I want to pick Korey's brain about his thoughts on homeschooling and a few other things because he homeschools. And we can get into that. We have a whole hour. But first, I want to stay on the topic of activism because it's important for people to get motivated and inspired when they see other true, really just freedom-loving, I hate that term because it sounds so cheesy and 4th of July-ish and blah, but real activists, not paid for, not people doing it because they want to be famous or they want to do YouTube videos, people doing it because it's the right thing to do because they have children who they want to leave a better world, okay? And that's one of the reasons, again, that I promote Kory and his friends and everybody over at Open Carry Tarrant County and the cop block groups that they're a part of because they do an excellent job. So cop blocking, this is what we're going to get back into. Cop blocking, this is what Kory was talking about. It's when you go out and you just watch the police. Now, they have a different twist to it in Texas because they have open carry. They actually do open carry while cop blocking. Now, many people might say, well, that's just crazy. They're asking for trouble, Popeye. They're carrying guns on them. Of course the police will think they're dangerous. But why? That's the point. Just them having a firearm does not make them a criminal. That's a fallacy. You're throwing logic out the window. That's like saying because someone drives a car, they're automatically a drug smuggler because you could smuggle drugs in a car. Well, no, that's apples and oranges, Popeye. No, it's not. You're saying because someone carries a gun, they're automatically a killer. Well, what else are guns used for? Well, you could hunt with them. You could sport shoot. Just having one, the presence of one, is a deterrent of violence, right? And look, we're supposed to be equal with the police and the military. That was the whole point of the Second Amendment, right? They didn't have modern policing back then either. So the point is we're supposed to be equal with any type of force like that. And right now, the argument is that this is the basis of the argument for police. They can do whatever they want because they're cops and because they wear a costume and they have a badge. But you can't do whatever you want because you're a free citizen. That's against the rules and that's a no-no. You're not allowed to be on the same level. They're a special class. That's what's being created. Being a police officer is now being a special class of citizen. It's almost, like if back in the days of, like King Arthur and stuff, you have, it's almost like they're making their own retarded version of knighthood, except it's cops, and they throw them in this group and they say, well, you're a special class, so you get whatever. The rest are peasants. They're beneath you. That's the kind of attitude that's being bestowed into the police nowadays. And that's, I think, cop block, one of the good things about it is it lets them know, wrong answer. You're being held to account because you're on the same page with us. So anyway, I want to give Kory the floor. I want to pick your brain, Kory, about ideas. I want you to talk to me and the listeners as if we're all retarded and we know nothing about cop blocking or what it actually entails. If I was going to come to you or the listeners were going to come to you and say, Kory, please give me some advice. How can I start doing this? And what's the best way to go about getting involved in in a cop block group, but also equipping yourself for the task of watching and recording the police?
Well, first of all, I would like to bring up a point. If you really want to separate the men from the boys when it comes to freedom, start combining cop watch and open carry and see who starts bitching, and then call people out because they don't believe in real liberty and freedom. But to speak to somebody that's never cop watched before, what I would do is, first of all, I would find somebody else who wants to do it with you. I would never go alone unless you're super, I don't know, like you need experience to go alone, and you want to make sure that you're live streaming if you're alone. But first thing I would do is find a friend, find a buddy to go with you. The more the better. The more cameras is always the better. And I would, find a scanner that you can listen to. That they have scanners on your phone. You can download a simple application to listen to your local police departments. Sometimes the local police departments have different frequencies that bypass the standard application on your phone. And so what we did was we set up a fundraiser and got one of the best handheld scanners you can buy. We actually raised over $500 in 2 hours and went ahead and just bought it. And so we use that as well. And so I would definitely recommend a way of finding out what's going on, scanner-wise. We started using walkie-talkies at first because, you always have to find a way to communicate with each other if one person's on the other side of the traffic stop and you're on the other, or if you have, 5 or 6 cop watchers and you're in 2 different groups, you need a way to communicate with each other. We started using these two-way radios, but then we found out, you can buy a $40, $50, two-way radio, and it only goes about a quarter or a half a mile. And it kind of a big disadvantage because you'll get separated a little bit. You'll need to communicate. So what we started doing was using the application called Voxer with a V-O-X-E-R. And if you download that application, it's like a walkie-talkie, only it goes wherever your phone goes, and then you can also add people to the group. So instead of just having 2 radios, you can have like 10 people in the same group. Yeah, and at the same time. And so you can have people bloop, 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 talking back and forth. And if you miss something, which is even way cool, is you can go back and replay it. So if you miss something, you don't have to be like, can you repeat that for me? You just go back and press play on the message, and it plays back to you. So I would say that's definitely a very important piece to cop watching is Voxer, having a way to communicate quickly and efficiently with your other cop watchers. Want to make sure that you're recording. I recommend if you have multiple people, one person do regular video and then one person live stream. The advantage with live streaming is if the officer was to ever destroy your camera or something was to ever happen, you already have that online. They can't do anything. They can't, go into your phone and delete it. It's online. People have already been viewing it, watching it live. And so, that's a big advantage. The only disadvantage I see to live stream is some of the quality. But when you're talking about, if you have a couple people recording there with you and one person has it on live stream and the quality is a little bit lower, well, that's okay because you're live streaming, and that's to help out in case something happens at the scene to all the video cameras. So extra people is always good. Extra cameras, live streaming, other people just regular video recording, posting updates on Facebook is good. Letting people know what your last location might have been. And of course the Voxer is very important. We've also started figuring out we want to find ways to communicate with the drivers to educate them on their rights, like don't consent to search and seizures. You don't have to have your window rolled all the way down. You don't have to answer any questions. Just basic normal rights that are violated every time somebody gets pulled over because they're uneducated about the rights and they don't have that knowledge. So we stand in front of the cars with signs that say keep silent, don't consent to search and seizures, and stuff like that. ways that they can get a hold of us. And so, I don't know, we just try to do everything that we can possible to communicate with the driver, whether it be signs and stuff. And we weren't too sure if it was against the law to actually make communication with the driver, like, hey, don't consent to search and seizures, and directly talk to them. That's why we were making signs and stuff like that. Plus, we don't want to have some way or another of the officer saying that we were somehow interfering with their investigation, even though if you look at the law, it clearly says that freedom of speech or merely somebody's voice or speaking couldn't be interfering with an investigation. You know, freedom of speech is freedom of speech, but that doesn't mean they won't arrest you. You know what I'm saying? They'll arrest you. You can go down to the station and figure it out later with a judge. They're very good at doing that, especially in Arlington. So those are some basics. You know, I started even trying to find a way to get away from recording with my phone. And two reasons is because you want to try to find something like a GoPro, or even a little bit cheaper of a version of a GoPro. It's called a Looxie, Loox, what is it? CIE. And you can go and get one of those for like $100 right now. And those actually even live stream. Those are a little bit better, personally to me, than GoPro, because you can live stream. Now the GoPro has better quality and stuff, but the Looxie, you can live stream right from your Facebook. So that's cool. And what I'm getting at is a hands-free device is very good in a cop watching situation. You want to have your hands free. Maybe you want to listen to the scanner. Maybe you got to write something down. Maybe you're just too damn tired of holding the camera all the time. And if it's on your necklace or on something that's attached to you, it's a little bit more, less motion in your video. You'll probably have better video quality. It's more steel. And the GoPro is really good for those reasons. And my second reason, besides being hands-free, is, we've been getting arrested lately, and what happens when you're recording with your phone is they take that for evidence, and you don't get your phone back. So, what was the point of recording with it if you're not going to get that evidence until you're with them in court, So it's always good to maybe have another camera recording, so you don't get your phone taken. So at least when you get to jail, you get to keep your phone, and I know you're still going to get your camera taken, but if other people were recording, at least you got the film, and plus you got your phone. So the phone's very important. Yeah, and another thing we've learned is always record. Always record. Sometimes we've had mistakes where, we wanted to have a private conversation with another citizen, and we turned off the camera, and that was like the most time that we needed it, because supposedly one of our members assaulted this lady and interfered with the investigation, and that was right after we turned off the camera to have a private conversation with a citizen who we thought was just, going to have a decent conversation with us, but ended up getting arrested. And I don't know if I'm missing anything. I think those are pretty much the basics of going out and cop watching and kind of protecting yourself and making sure that, you're filming, that you have people with you, you're making connections on the outside world with other people, and you're protecting your property. You want to be hands-free. It's just a bunch of different things that involved, and you never really know. I'm pretty sure that the other groups have come up with other things that better suit their needs and have come up with different ways to cop watch, and maybe their ways are better than ours in some instances, but this is all gone from, learning from doing, experience and just getting out there and cop watching. And then, we find something out and we're like, damn it, next time we need this, or we're going to do this next time. It's all on experience, and it seems like the more you do it, it's just like driving a car. The more you do it, the more you get used to it, the more you learn about it and the ins and outs. And, it's a pretty easy process. Obviously, you're standing up for something. And like I said earlier, you don't really get to see the direct effect, like right out there, on site. It's not like you're going to go out there and record, and then all of a sudden the police are going to start acting really good all of a sudden. It happens over time. These guys, they see that they're being recorded. They understand it. You get out there, you talk to them. Another thing that I've probably missed, and, this is the same thing that I've learned from experience, even though they might be tyrants and they might be, breaking their oath to the Constitution and destroying everything that our founders intended and everything going against freedom, but you got to keep your cool, and it sucks that, if you say a foul language or foul word, everything in that video that you just did doesn't matter anymore because you just used foul language. That is the public perception. Now, do I agree with it? Hell no. Are they tyrants? Hell yes. And should I be calling them what they are? Hell yes. But you know what? To please some people and to expose the reality of the situation, not telling you what to do, but I would recommend you just smile and get arrested. I think here in Arlington, we've perfected that. We've had, many people been arrested, and they're all bogus ass charges, just raw bogus charges. And one person says, drops an F-bomb to the police officer after he's already arrested. And then for some reason, the officer, because he wears a badge, gets a free pass because the citizen, the slave, used foul language towards him. So, all hell breaks loose. The butters come out, the cop apologists come out, the bootlickers, they all start coming out. Well, maybe you should not have cussed at him. Well, that was after I was getting arrested, dumbass. Come on, man. Maybe you shouldn't have violated the Constitution, So, that would be another thing I would recommend is that if you want to perfect on how to get arrested and silence the media and shock some people, just smile and don't say a word. But, that's pretty much the basics. If you're new to cop watching, if you want to get started, you can also go to copblock.org and look on there for tips and stuff like that, how to start a group and how to grow a group. And it's, we don't have rules. We're not going to tell you what to do and stuff. You go on there, you make your own group, and you just start going. It's you're your own person and individual. So, if anybody's, had a fear that, go out and cop watching, and don't have that fear, go out there, cop watch, grow some balls, grow some, cojones and step up and do something, I'm going to be frank about it. I'm a nobody. I'm just some guy that lives here in the DFW area and has this idea that I believe in freedom, and I'm very passionate about it. And, I'm nobody special. I'm just a guy that believes in something, and anybody can step up and do this. And everybody needs to step up and do whatever they feel is necessary to fight for the cause. And listening to the radio is great at getting education that way and pointers and stuff like that. And going and even, I don't believe in sometimes the voting system, maybe on a more local level, it's more real, but, getting out there and getting involved in your local elections and stuff, and any way that we can get it, any way that you want to do it, do it. But sitting down at the keyboard is not going to be that way. We need to get out into the community and start being active, boots on the ground, and start educating people. People are hungry for this. They've been getting fed bullshit from their TV for way too long, and people are wanting this information. They want to be fed. They're hungry. They're like starving kids, and they need this information. And you will get backlash for putting it out there, but they'll never unhear what you say. You'll leave them a seed of knowledge, and hopefully that seed sprouts into this big tree of liberty. But if it doesn't, at least you tried. So that's the whole ordeal with cop blocking.
And what you were talking about with they'll arrest you and let the judge sort it out, that's what's known as, there's a little phrase we had when I was younger, and I used to use this. I taught the federal jack guys this because we used to do cop blocking back in the day. We called it stringing. We used to just we'd run around with a scanner and chase the cops around to different calls and just go do the same thing cop block did or does. And I would tell them, look, because I used to work with the police a lot when I was younger. and I was a firefighter, and then I did a lot of towing and recovery. So I worked with the cops on impounds and stuff. And the cops always had this motto: you may not do the time, but you're gonna take the ride. Meaning, you may not go to jail, but your ass is going to be in the back of the police cruiser, and you're going to get arrested no matter what. Because it's their way of inconveniencing you almost because you pissed them off. I mean, I have friends that are cops. They've told me that, I've heard stories, either things that some of them did, where most of them are pretty good. They're not idiots. And most of the guys that I have friends that I'm still friends with that are police actually have quit being cops by now, to be honest with you, because they see what's going on. They've all left, most of them. But the ones that might buy into it, I would hear stories from them about, and sometimes they'd be bragging about things that they had done or their friends had done, and they would just be like all into it. It's amazing how you can get into violating someone else's rights, and you can get all amped up about it. And you'd sit and point something out like, well, what if that was your mother? Dead silence. Well, my mother wouldn't be in that situation. Well, how do you know that?
Right, okay.
How do you know that, right? Like, what happens if your mom's walking down the street one day and they mistake her for somebody? Because maybe there's somebody that – I mean, how many times do you hear people getting shot because they quote-unquote matched the description of a suspect? What would happen if she matches the description, God forbid, right? Then what? Then it's different? They don't put themselves in there's always an excuse that it'll never happen. Anyway, yeah, that's the attitude of you may not do the time, but you will take the ride. And I do really find how you guys do it effective. Like, that's why I said when you got cut off, I had said that one of the reasons I promote you guys is and I respect you guys so much is the way that you'll be getting arrested, like how you deal with the cops, and you'll be getting arrested and you're still smiling. I mean, it's a you're getting arrested, it's going to be a pain in the ass, you're going to have to deal with all this, and yet you still have a smile on your face. And I'm not saying people should go out and just be doormats and everything else, but the way that you guys found this happy medium where you still have the balls to stand up and do what's right, but at the same time, you're not giving them any ammo to use against you in the court of public opinion, which is that's largely in part where the fight is. It's really not. I mean, we have to get the police to change their perspective, but we also have to get the general public to stop being apologists. And I know what you mean. As soon as you say F you, or why are you effing hitting me as the cop is caving your head in with a baton, right? And you have blood shooting out of your eyeball. God forbid you say, why are you effing hitting me? Then they'll go, see, he was resisting. If you had just shut up and taken the beating, then so like if you actually just do it with a smile and you don't resist, it really disarms them largely in part. I mean, you're still going to get people that'll find, look, the cop apologists are going to be apologists for whatever reasons because they, they're groupies for lack of a better term. But I find that the way you guys do go about doing things, Korey, is more effective. Again, in the court of public opinion, even it's somewhat with dealing with the officers too, because you're going to have an officer that will be smart enough here or there to realize, wow, these guys aren't the terrorists that we're told. Look how polite they are being, and I'm sure that over the course of time, you've even reached at least one or two of these cops, even if they haven't openly admitted it or they still enforce rules and stuff. I'm not saying that suddenly they're fighting for good, but I honestly think just having the conversations with you guys and just having the interaction with you is changing them. It's like planting seeds, and who knows, maybe 6-7 months from now, some of these cops might pull their heads out of their rear ends and be like, you know what, I don't want to partake in this. Maybe I'll quit. Like I said, I have plenty of friends that have left the police force because they just didn't want to deal with the tyranny anymore. And originally they would be the ones fighting me when we would have debates about this. No, you don't understand what it's like, blah, 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 blah. And over the course of time, they realized, wow, things are getting out of control. So don't be afraid to reach out to the police, ladies and gentlemen. We need to engage with them in conversation, change their perspective. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, final segment. Again, hanging out with my good friend, Korey Watkins from Open Carry Tarrant County and cop block of, I think it's North Texas. I'm going to have Korey, before we get into homeschooling, plug all of the cop block stuff that he's involved with again, and the open carry stuff, and anything else that he wants to. Because I know they do street actions and everything else, and any upcoming events he wants to plug. I'm going to have him do all that, because if you're in Texas, and I know I have a lot of listeners out there, if you're in Texas, you're in the area, go over, meet them. Perhaps maybe you'll end up joining the group, whatever, Open Carry or the Cop Watch group. Go hook up with them on Facebook. Talk to them. Engage with them. They'll probably inspire you to stand up and do something. And that's what we need in this country. We need more people to stand up and do things, do the right thing. Anyway, Korey, before we get into homeschooling, go ahead and plug any Cop Block websites or Facebook pages or Twitters, and the same thing for all the Open Carry stuff and anything else that you want to plug.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to plug, and I'm not sure if you know this, but about 3-4 weeks ago now, I've started my own radio show on Friday night. It's on Blog Talk Radio. It's We Resistors Radio, and you can go there. I'm live every Friday night at 9 p.m. We talk about Cop Block. We talk about Open Carry. Those are kind of our two main topics. Of course, we switch it up on on other liberty and freedom ideas as well. Sorry for the background noise. I just stepped outside. I'm traveling back from Austin. I was down in the legislator's offices all day. But anyways, yeah, the radio show every Friday night, 9 Central Time. Also, you can get on copblock.org. You can check out Cop Block on Facebook. You can check out North Texas Cop Block, Texas Cop Block. Those are our groups here in the local Texas area. If you're, wherever you are, it doesn't matter. Get on and support us on Facebook and give us a like. The likes, the shares, the comments, that spreads messages. I don't know if people understand how Facebook works or not, but it's kind of like a popularity contest. The more that you comment, the more that you like, and the more that you share, the more, the further the message goes. And so, check out the Cop Block groups. Check out Open Carry Tarrant County. That's our Open Carry group here in the local Tarrant County group. Of course, if you're in Texas, if you can't find an Open Carry group in your area, something's wrong, because there's Open Carry groups everywhere over here in Texas now. And so get involved in your groups. I understand people got jobs and people got school and people got kids and stuff, but you ain't going to get more freer by sitting and doing nothing. You got to make sacrifices. I sacrifice leaving my family and my job, once, twice a week, just to gain a little bit of freedom back. And I think if more people just sacrificed a couple hours of their time weekly, we could start making some serious moves here and waves back towards what our founders intended, what actual liberty and freedom really means. So check out all those feeds, support, share, like, whatever you can do. So I would appreciate all of that. Also have if you want to be a walking billboard and have something on your shirt, we do T-shirts, antiestablishment.com. We got all kinds of T-shirts that say don't consent to search and seizures, all kinds of pro-gun shirts and anti-establishment shirts. So check that out. That's pretty much our whole gist there. We're trying to get involved and hit it from every angle.
And you guys do just that. And, I want to say a big thank you to you and all of your fellow patriots out there. Or, I hate that word. Let's say your fellow free thinkers. Because I don't want to. I hate using labels, but I have to use something to describe them, right? So thank you to you and all of yours that help out. You men and women are in those groups that do that. You guys are really awesome, and you do inspire other people, Korey. So I want to, from me and the listeners to you guys, thank you.
I appreciate that, man, and that's what it's all about. Is people might get on Facebook and be like, "Oh, look at Korey, he likes attention. He posts pictures all the time," and it's like, no, that's for motivational purposes. I want people to see what I'm doing, so they'll get some damn motivation, and they'll go out and do it too. Because, like I said earlier, I'm nobody special. Anybody can get out and do this. We have many people active in our groups and that are standing up and doing something, and not one person, not two people. We need everybody. So get up and do something. Be bold. Stand for something. And stay out of the drama. A lot of times people get involved in certain groups and they get kind of discouraged because some of the infighting and the drama. And I would say just stay focused on the task at hand. Don't worry about what naysayers are saying, and respect how other people decide to fight for their liberty and freedom. Don't try to judge people and pick and choose. Well, you're fighting for that way, and that's the wrong way, or something like that. Just have respect, because it is about freedom, right?
I agree. One of my friends, Mark Passio, another radio show host, coined the term the My Freedom movement, because unfortunately I find that many people are for their own version of freedom, but if someone else's version alters a little bit, then they're against that, and that creates infighting. And a lot of that is the programming that we've been conditioned with over the years. Many people think they're awake, yet they still fall back on some of the very same programming. So really what I think people need to do is actively check themselves. And it's not something like you wake up and you're like, okay, well, I'm awake. I understand there's problems now in the world, so I'm no longer susceptible to things. Oh, contraire, mon frère, you are very susceptible to the very same things. You just have to keep yourself in check. That's what it's about. It's that simple. And I think if more people did that, again, it's a change of perspective, Korey. I've talked about this a lot on air. It's a change of perspective. Not only is it with the police a change of their perspective, but also us as individuals. If more people gave a crap and then didn't act on emotion but acted out of logic and just took an extra 5 seconds to think before acting, the world would be a drastically different place. And actually a lot of that has to do with the education. And we're going to get into homeschooling in a second, but I want to ask you one question, because I know this was thrown out in the chat room. It was actually an interesting question, and I wrote it down. So before I forget to ask you, and it reminded me when you said Austin, Texas, what are your thoughts on Art Acevedo, the police chief over in Austin?
Well, I don't, some of the problems, with police chiefs are not recognizing the very basics of the Constitution and stuff. And I don't know too much personally about him or whatnot. And I haven't heard any personal problems. Most of the problems that we've had in Austin are with the DPS. And that is the officers that are directly on the Capitol grounds. And they have been arresting people for just simply walking on the property with a firearm, even though there's no law against it. And those cases are just now actually starting to be dropped. We had open carriers arrested 2 years ago, and those cases are just now being dropped. And of course, when we were getting arrested, it was all over the news, we're the bad guys, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, when the charges are dropped, you hear crickets. Not a damn thing is said. So, but yeah, I don't know too much about the guy to say one way or another, but I for sure, I'm assuming he's not a strict constitutionalist, or I would know about it.
Yeah, no, from what I understand, he's, and from what I've seen, he's just another one of these, New World Order, jackboot thug, I'll do whatever you tell me to do. Most of these police chiefs are. They bring these police chiefs in from outside areas. They always hire a guy that's not from the city, and they bring him in. Oh, it'll be a fresh change. I think that's part of the problem. The guy doesn't know the city. How can you run a city police department that has to engage with the citizens of a city every day if you really don't live there and know nothing about it and don't understand the culture? You really can't. How are you supposed to train your officers to de-escalate situations? Oh, that's right, you're not supposed to. Oh, maybe that's why. Maybe because the model is actually not broken. It's actually working the way it's supposed to. You just don't understand how it's supposed to work, right? That's really the way it is.
Right. No, I totally agree. We need, like I said, man, stand up, be bold, and let's start changing stuff. Let's start changing the way that society thinks. A lot of people start judging people right away, and instead of having self-rational thoughts and maybe respecting somebody's point of view instead of just judging them right away and doing away with them. It's I don't know, man. It's just interesting how minds and people work. If somebody disagrees with somebody, it's all of a sudden we're starting to push them away. We don't want to talk to them no more. It's like, well, maybe respect what they're saying and try to hear them out. Even if you don't agree with it at the end, at least respect their thought and how they see it. I just don't understand. Society is always pointing the fingers and being very ugly.
Because we're programmed, and from the time we're young, we're programmed through school,
yeah,
through our parents, through media. We're programmed that what happens when we're kids? This is why it's good that you homeschool. It's a good segue into homeschooling here. This is why it is good in general just to homeschool. I mean, yes, your kid should have interaction with other kids. That way he knows, how to deal with idiots when he gets older, because he's going to have the same type of moronic interactions with people from time to time as an adult, right? And that's what your formative years as a child are, to help you kind of learn how to deal with certain things. But in school, the kids are taught by the institution that if something is, if someone says something outside the box or whatever, they are to point their finger and laugh. You know what I mean? I mean, that's what they're taught. The kids are taught, point your finger and laugh, ha, 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 ha. He's different. He's thinking outside the box. So you start walking around with your gun, and they're all taught to be afraid of people with guns or free thinkers. Oh my God, this guy's got a gun and he's talking about the Constitution. He's a terrorist. You know what I mean? That's where that programming comes from. It's all about, when you were kids. So let's get into homeschooling. Your thoughts on homeschooling. Did you have your child in regular public school and then pull them out, or has the child always been homeschooled?
I had thought about homeschooling before my first child, which was my son, went into preschool. And, I wasn't really educated about it, so I was kind of still looking and finding things out. But about 6 months into him being in preschool, from my research and from what I was getting from his public school, I knew right away that this wasn't going to last very long at all. So my child was in public school for 6 months. And then I rescued him. I rescued his brain, and I took him out, and I freed his mind, and now he's a free individual. And I can't explain. You can only see it from experience, how good and effective homeschooling can be with individual thoughts, somebody growing up and becoming themselves rather than what society wants you to be and how they want you to think. He's 7 years old, and, he's always asking questions. He's always debating. He's always thinking of things that I'm like, well, damn, I wish I would have thought of that when I was 7, and just creative mind. It's scary. I think how fast the mind can excel when there's no boundaries being binded onto it. It's just amazing. Some of these kids who homeschool are graduating from college at 15 and 16 years old, and it's because they're excelling at a fast pace. The school, the education that they're being taught is one-on-one from their parent. I mean, imagine that. I remember going to public school, and I was in a class of 20 people. And how effective can one teacher be teaching 20 kids? And at least one or two of them are class clowns, so they're doing stupid stuff throughout the class, and you probably only get really 10 or 20 minutes out of an hour, of real listening in. And then you got all the distractions, my kid's not cool, he's overweight, he wears funny clothes, they made fun of me today, Mom, this, that, you got to worry about so many things. Your kid, listen to this. When I realized that this statistic was, what it is, you put your kids in school for 12 years of their life, 40 hours a week. Their brain is trapped in this cage for 40 hours a week, and they're being told how to think, how to act, and it's not from their parent. It's from government, and it's just insane. I can't believe that I woke up out of, going to school that long and being in that trap. I made it out of the matrix alive. It was amazing. Sounds funny, but it's just interesting how I kind of found my way out of it. And I don't have to put my kids through the same thing I went through. You talk about drugs and sex and stuff like that. And, kids are going to find out about that stuff eventually. But guess what? When they're in public school, they find out about it a lot sooner. And it becomes a distraction, and bad things occur. I think there's a time and a place for you to teach your child that yourself. It doesn't need to be done in the schoolroom and stuff like that. And I don't know, man. Public schools are crashing bad, and the federal government's taking control. And we don't even get to teach our kids about the Constitution and stuff like that in public school. But here in my private school, I get to teach my kids about gun safety. I get to teach them about the Constitution. If one day we want to go to a museum, we can do that, or maybe meet up with other homeschool kids, a coalition. I mean, it's just so much more freedom. We don't have to wake up at 7:30 every morning and be prompt Monday through Friday from 7:30 to 3:30. You got to be here. You got to do this. You got to have homework. I mean, damn, what a trap that is. Public school is a trap. And then I'm so thankful I found an avenue and a way out, and I did some researching. Public schools, the homeschools are looked at, homeschool children are looked at before public school children are when it comes to colleges. The 30% higher on across the board on all the test results. One of the biggest myths that I've ever heard about homeschooling is that your child will have no communication skills. They'll lack communication, and that is just so farce that it couldn't be more further from the truth. Because when we go to the park, my kids are the first ones asking people, "What do you want to play? You want to play tag? You guys want to do this?" My kid will talk to a 40-year-old, a 60-year-old, a 20-year-old, a 2-year-old. He's not grouped in a group of kids that are lumped together, and that you can only talk to them because they're your age. It's just a wild experience, and you really can't grasp all of this, what I'm saying, by me just saying it. You would actually have to go through the process. It's just truly amazing.
My friend Joe homeschools his kids, and his little ones, they've been homeschooled from the start. But the older one, he was in a public school. He was, I think he was in like middle school or just beginning high school at the time. And they know his grades were crappy. The kid wasn't learning anything, and they started homeschooling him. And it's like a huge 180-degree difference. And it was just because of the crap that they were fed. And then it makes you think about when we were kids, because we're all around the same age. Like all the garbage that like you said, you wish you were having the same free thoughts that your kid is having at that age. Like you've had them, but it took until you were in your maybe mid-20s or late 20s or early 30s to have them. Whereas your kid's, maybe 7, 8 years old, and the child's having these thoughts. That's just amazing. I mean, if they're that far ahead at that young of an age, imagine where they'll be when they're our age. That's what it's about.
I agree.
That's how you carry on the next generation. That's really what it's about. So we only got about 7.5 minutes left, and I know I have to ask you this because it's in regards to homeschooling, because this is the next question I'm always asked whenever I bring up homeschooling to anybody that does it. How does one do it? Like how – I know there's different homeschool programs. I'll ask you this. This is the better way to frame the question because I know the listeners will benefit from this. How do you, Korey, homeschool? What's your method?
My method, since they're very early, I use computer programs, stuff online. We have games and stuff that we use. I sit down and do it myself. I mean, some of the basic stuff, numbers, colors, shapes, math, basic history, basic writing, all that stuff. This is very easy, but I've started to look, obviously they're going to be getting into a little bit higher grades, or a little bit more learning, the stuff that I can't just make curriculum for them. So what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start using a little bit of the Ron Paul homeschool. It's the Ron Paul Institute. You can use his program for homeschool. And then there's also anywhere in Texas, especially, there's all kinds of homeschool coalition groups, and you can join up with those, and they do learning days and all kinds of stuff. So I like to play the field. I don't like to be the Monday through Friday guy. We sit down, we do this, I'd like to do this one day. I like to do that one day, keep the minds of the kids very, wanting more. You know, I find out that my kids are best at learning when they want to learn it. You know, if my kid wasn't really interested in reading, I wouldn't push him that hard to do it, because he's not going to he's not going to accept it as well as if he was wanting to learn it. You know, for example, my son was kind of slow a little bit on reading at first, but for some reason on math, he was just like, feed me more. I want more. And we were doing multiplication, and the dude's like 6 years old. And so I had to stop. I was like, all right, well, let's focus a little bit back on our reading. And you could tell he wanted to start reading more because he was looking at things on TV, and he was asking, well, what does that say? What does that sound like? How do I do this? How do I do that? And he was getting frustrated. He would play Xbox and Minecraft, and people would leave him messages and stuff. And he was like, you know what? I need to start reading. And he started reading. He did it himself. And it was him wanting to do it. And so we started reading more books. We started reading more information. You know, hey, let's read the menu when we go out to dinner. Just read everything. Start reading shit. And man, he's picked it up. He's a reading machine now. So it's just, I say, let them be free. Let them, you know, mold into their own person. And when they're ready to learn, damn it, feed them all the information you can.
That's actually a good idea. That's kind of like what my mother did with me. I started reading at a very young age, and she would catch me at 1 o'clock in the morning in my bedroom with a flashlight underneath my blanket, thinking that I was safe, and they couldn't see the blanket glowing because of the flashlight, and I'd be reading books, and I was like 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old.
Yep.
And by the time I think I was in 5th or 6th grade, and they started testing us to see what our skill levels were with certain things. And I was testing with college level reading skills in like middle school. And it was simply because my mother allowed me to read books. That is it. And she encouraged my free thought. I mean, it was very simple things like that. The school didn't teach me anything, dude. You went to public school, right?
Yep. Yeah. Unfortunately, I did it.
Okay. Did you learn anything? Do you use anything that you were taught in school? Because I know I really don't.
Not really. I mean, the basics that anybody else could have taught me, that's what I use. You know, I mean, if I'm inserting into a area that I need to learn specific stuff, then I would do that. But on general, no.
Yep, me either. All that crap and all that time wasted. I really think I think we went through it for a certain reason, man, because we can, people like you, the people that you work with, my friend Joe, others at Homeschool, myself, like we went through that stuff, so we know what not to do with the future generations, and we know how to fix it. And I think it's good that there are people that are addressing it and fixing it, because just by you doing it and people seeing your example and the way you do things, that'll give them the idea to maybe step up to the plate and change things a little bit as well. And that's how we're going to fix things. Real change comes from within each and every one of us, not from somebody flying in with a cape. That's why, again, I support you guys, because you guys are really like the real deal grassroots activism. The way you guys handle things is the way that the world is going to be saved. I'm not kidding when I say that. Right. So we got about. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, man, I appreciate you grabbing me onto the show. I love talking to you, chit-chatting with you. I'm about to get out and drink a beer with some friends. I've just loaded my Tech 9 with some 9mm, and I'm going to go enjoy myself.
You see, I'm so jealous, because at the end of the broadcast, I have to go edit, right? And Korey gets to get off. In 2.5 minutes when we're off air, I'll be editing audio, and Korey will be having a beer and shooting things. I'm a little bit jealous. It's so good to live in the South, though, either way. Korey, thank you for coming on, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you for everything you do. And go ahead and plug Facebook and Twitter and stuff really quick again one more time.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Facebook, Korey, Kory, Watkins. Add me, share my stuff. Let's share each other's knowledge and activism. Get on Cop Block. Get on North Texas Cop Block. Get on Open Carry Tarrant County. And let's be bold. Let's start doing something and spread the message.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for everything you do, and thanks again for coming on tonight, Kory. There he goes, ladies and gentlemen, Kory Watkins. So, last minute and 10 seconds here before we go off air. I want to inspire you, if I haven't already. Do something. Pull your kid out of public school. I'm busy, Popeye. Change. Be the change. It's that simple. 3 words. I'm actually getting it tattooed on the side of my throat in about 3 weeks. My friend's doing it for me, and he's going to freehand it on the side of my throat with a pen and then tattoo it.
This is Sparta!
That's how much I believe in that. Be the change, ladies and gentlemen. Be the change you wish to see in the world. As I always tell you, the solutions to our problems are an inside job. I believe in every single one of you. Believe in yourselves. I'll catch you all again next week. I love you all. I'm out of here.